Warning: the following podcast contains violent scenes that may be unsettling to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. In the cold winter of 1989, a Sabbat pack, who has suffered an immeasurable loss, is given an ultimatum. Go to the Twin Cities in Minnesota, investigate why a deeply embedded pack has stopped reporting back, or meet their final death. This is Vampire the Masquerade, Twin Cities by Night, Sorrow, a tale of loss and regret that follows the Sabbat pack known as the Nothing. Join us with Becca playing Linda, a Milcavian anti-tribute, Craig playing Jake, a Pander, Jordan playing Abigail, a Ravenos anti-tribute, Monica playing Jenny, a Shamizi, and Slavic playing Charlie, a Bruja anti-tribute, and Chris as the storyteller. If you'd like to contact us, you can find us on Twitter at twin_cities_BTM or on Facebook and Discord as Twin Cities by Night. We hope you enjoy. Hello everyone and welcome to Vampire the Masquerade, Twin Cities by Night, Sorrow. I just want to give a quick little introduction of what we'll be doing in the story and then introduce you all to the players, and then after that what we're going to be doing is creating their characters and then doing a narrative background so you guys can see their motivations and what led to where the story's going to kick off. So Sorrow is going to be a tale that tells the story of a Sabbat pack that's sent into the Twin Cities to investigate something. We'll get into the details later about that. It takes place in the winter of 1990. And so we're doing a little bit kind of like what we did with Ghouls, Fatal Addiction, Servitude, where we're going to tell a little bit more of the story, but from a different perspective and from the past events that have happened before the story that you all are used to, that you probably heard before. For those of you who may not have heard any of the Vampire the Masquerade Twin Cities by Night stories beforehand, you can find them in our stories of Negligence, Homecoming, Dread, and our Ghouls, Fatal Addiction story, Servitude. And you also can find a little sidetrack that's also tied to the continuity in Vampire the Masquerade Wars by Night. So some of the themes and tones that I hope to cover here in this story is themes of loss, mental illness, depression. I want to really go for that second edition vibe of personal horror, the kind of like the grittier black and white. When I say gritty, I don't mean like, edgelord type stuff. I just mean more of a somber story, kind of somewhat inspired by like early Poppy Z. Bright fiction and some early like Clive Barker horror fiction there. Just a little warning, though, to people who may be listening, and I've already talked to the players about this beforehand, is that there's going to be some mature topics that are dealt with here that may strike home to some people who deal with real-life issues. I hope to shed light and treat them with the respect that they deserve. I've also, warned the players, and of course to the players who are listening, if ever you do feel uncomfortable with anything that's talked about here, you can always let me know in the chat box, and we can fade to black there. But again, my purpose here isn't to make anyone uncomfortable. It's to tackle some serious subjects here that I haven't really been able to tackle in any of the other Vampire Masquerade games that I have ran. All right, so before we continue on, I'd like to introduce the players real quick so they can just say hello, and just so you can know who is the ensemble here that we have. First, we have Craig. Say hello, Craig.
Hello, everyone.
Some of you may know Craig from such games as our Scion miniseries and our Scion Chronicle we have going on. Craig has also ran some one-shots for us in Call of Cthulhu, and this is the first time that he actually will get to play in something that is part of the Vampire the Masquerade continuity that we have, and also our Chronicles of Darkness Inferno story, Temptation. Our next player is going to be Slavic. What's up, Slavic?
Hello. How you doing?
Good. How you doing, brother? Long road we've traveled together. Slavic's a day one roll dog, was here back before we were even an actual play, so it's cool to have him back in here, bringing a little bit of that Twin Cities by Night vampire knowledge. He's the one who's going to make sure that shit stays right here, doesn't stray off path. He's our little, I don't know what the term is for it, so he's
rules lawyer.
Rules lawyer. There we go. Then we have one of our newer players, Joreen.
Hello.
Hey, hello. She is newer here. She actually has played in a couple of our Eclipse Phase one-shots that you should have heard by the time this is released, and one that is currently going on. So it was awesome to have her here in her years of experience in role-playing. It is awesome. Then we have Becca, the epic botch madame here, who has played in a bunch of stuff. I can't think of awesome names for everyone. It is on you all as players to come up with your own one-liners like your wrestling stars. It's not on me. But hello, Becca.
Hello.
For all you who may not know, Becca just wrestled a bear and made some pies beforehand. So, yes, she's the Alaskan goddess here representing. And then we have Monica. What is up, Monica? One of our newer members also.
Hello, listeners.
Monica, for those of you who don't know, is pretty active in our Discord. She is also one of our newer members here. And I'm really excited to have people who were listeners who enjoyed our stuff now being able to contribute to the Twin Cities by Night continuity. So it's really awesome. So let's go ahead and jump into the character creation here. So what we're going to do is first, I'm going to just ask each player, and I'll bring it up to them about like what their character's name is and what their character's like, kind of like just a quick synopsis. We're not going to go too far into the weeds quite yet. We may delve into it, but a quick synopsis of who they are as a mortal before they were embraced. So let's start with you, Craig. Tell me about your character.
I'm going to be playing a character named Jake Behringer. Jake is a Cincinnati, Ohio native who has moved to New York in order to study architecture at the Pratt Institute. He lives with his wife and they have a young child together. They're living in a really shitty apartment. Jake goes to school during the day, bartends at night at a club just to try to keep the bills paid. They're really hoping for like him to get a job after his architecture schooling is done. It's one of those sensitive, good-looking type guys that lends really well to being a bartender, especially in New York. He's what I would call Midwest handsome, like light brown hair, kind of like a permanent 5 o'clock shadow on him, skinny, tall. He's just trying to put in the work. He enjoys music quite a bit, and he's all around a pretty nice guy.
Awesome. We'll delve more into his past as we continue on. And how about you, Slavic? Let's introduce your character to us.
Right, so the character that I'll be playing is Charlie Allen, and he's the sort of guy who got kicked out of his parents' home when he was 18. And ever since then, he was just sort of drifting through life, did some drugs here, did some drugs there, could never really keep a job for long. And basically going through life without any sort of point or aim. And after that, well,
the rest will be told. So what does Charlie look like? Like what are his features like?
I feel like he's like in his 30s, but he looks like he's in his 40s, just from all like doing shitty jobs and drugs and stuff like that. And I'd say like he looks pretty strong and like a Caucasian male, probably like black hair.
Awesome. All right, Joreen, tell me about your character a little bit.
I'll be playing Abigail Brown today, and she is a university student from the University of Albany. She is studying linguistics and cognitive science over there. She moved around a lot when she was younger, so she doesn't really come from anywhere, really, before settling down in the university. She has brown hair, brown eyes. She's quite a bubbly 21-year-old.
That degree program she got into, can you explain that a little bit? I'm just curious, as I know linguistics, but the cognitive behavior, or can you break that down a little bit, like what exactly that is?
Yeah, so basically what it is, as far as I get it, and as far as I'm going to play it, is she knows a lot about languages and about how languages are used to communicate with people. That's really amazing. No, for real. That's like something that has unlimited potential in the story that really revolves around communicating and politics. And okay, that's really awesome. I was just curious about that. I learned something new every day. Thank you, Vampire the Masquerade. Join. What does she look like? You said she's 21, but like, what are some other features that she has? Yeah, so she is of average height. She has brown hair, brown eyes, pale skin. Well, just normal pale skin, not vampire pale. Awesome. All right. What about you, Becca? Let's go ahead and introduce us to your character.
I'm playing Linda Holt, and she is a counselor that lives in New York. She's married, she's 34 years old, but she really focuses a lot on her clientele. Her passion is taking care of people and helping them through their problems. She's on the shorter side. She's about 5'4", with longish, blonde, messy, I'm thinking messy, kind of big from the 80s. And she's got those big honking glasses.
I am a fan. My mom had big honking glasses and big blonde 80s hair. So like, I'm a huge fan of that. So way to go.
That's exactly what I was like.
Yeah.
You just know what I'm talking about when I said the big glasses from the 80s.
Exactly. And I love that you do that. And I am seriously let down in people playing male characters who don't have a thick mustache because you fail because it's 80s and it's supposed to have a thick mustache. But I don't know. Maybe you can grow one before you're embraced. I'm joking. All right. So let's go ahead and Monica, tell us a little bit about your character.
All right, I will be playing Jenny Shu. Jenny Shu is about 5'4". She has long, straight, poker straight, thick brown hair to her mid-back, which she normally keeps up in a messy bun. Her backstory is she was in college. She was looking to get a bachelor's in sports medicine and start a career with usually softball. It was the sport that she was the most into. So she was in school, but unfortunately, she got pregnant and had to quit. She became a stay-at-home mom while her significant other continued with his degree and eventually became the breadwinner of the household. So she feels a sense of failure because she could not continue with her degree. And when she tried a second time to go back to school, her husband wanted another child, so she got pregnant again around the age of 25. After her second child was born, she became a little chubbier than she would have liked. And because her metabolism was starting to slow down with age, she got very self-conscious about it and developed an extremely unhealthy relationship with food in her body, from diet pills to binging and purging and eventually anorexia. She became obsessed due to her family's culture with maintaining a slim physique, due to her life feeling out of control in general, with the hectic life hold of being a stay-at-home mom and feeling the failure of not being able to complete her degree. Her body is the one thing that she kind of feels she has some sort of control over. And that's where we'll leave off with her.
God damn. But yeah, that's good. That's awesome. That's really awesome. So since we all have your concepts there, which is really cool, and I'm really interested in diving into these characters later on, we'll get more into the narrative side. Let's jump into the fun side that everyone wants to know with vampires. Like, what clan are you going to be? So let's go ahead and start with Craig, your character Jake. What clan is he going to be?
Not that Jake really knows what it is, but he's a caitiff. Some people might call it pander. He doesn't really know enough about, or won't know enough about vampire society to even know what that means. He just knows that some people it's a big deal. Apparently, other people keep chiming in that it'd be a bigger deal if those Camarilla fucks got a hold of him, so you should be happy where you are.
Awesome. So we have one Caitiff, aka Pander in Denial. Next, let's go ahead and talk about Slavic. What is your clan is Charlie going to be?
Bruja, of course.
Of course.
No, Charlie's just going to have even more bad luck in his life, and he's going to get the clan that just, has a bit of a problem, with their temper.
There's nothing wrong with the clan that has impulse issues with a guy who has impulse issues. Nothing bad can go there, nothing.
Yeah, no, that's completely normal.
All right, Jorian, what is Abigail going to be when it comes to her clan?
Abigail is going to turn out to become a Ravnos.
Nice. Ravenos Anti-Tribu. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. We should be saying Anti-Tribu at the end of Bruja and Ravenos, but that is awesome. I'm really excited for that. We have some interesting concepts that we kind of hashed out maybe that we're going to show later on for those of you who have been listening to our past stuff before. Now, Becca, let's talk about your character. What clan is Linda going to be?
She is a Malkavian anti-tribune.
Which, interesting enough, for those of you who listen to Twin Cities by Night may not know, we have never had a Malkavian player in any of our games here. Becca is the first Malkavian in our group. So, all right. So, Monica, let's talk about Jenny. Tell me about what clan Jenny's going to be.
Of course, she's going to be the one and only Samithi.
Yes.
The flesh crafters, the bone crafters, the best Sabbat clan.
the concept with the concept that you have, I got a feeling I'm going to be getting rather uncomfortable at times with this. So it's going to be really, really cool and awesome. So now we have everyone, please annotate on your sheets what clan that you have decided to go with there. And then, for the pack name, I'm going to be choosing the pack name. And the reason why I'm going to be choosing the pack name here is because the story, for those of you who you're going to find out later on, is going to resolve around the fact that this pack has recently become leaderless, meaning that their ductus and their priest is no longer part of the pack. And we'll go into the details of that later. But the pack is called The Nothing. That is the name of your pack, The Nothing. So please write that down on your sheet. That is a little homage to a couple things, points to anyone who may be able to recognize it and can let us know in one of our social medias, and you'd be awesome if you knew. So next, let's talk about our nature and demeanor. For those of you listening who may not be aware, nature is how you really feel or your true character, and demeanor is how you portray yourself to the world. So let's go ahead and talk to Craig here and find out what Jake's nature and demeanor is.
Jake's nature is going to be penitent. He feels that maybe he's punished being punished by some higher power or cursed or damned, and he somehow needs to figure out how to right that, and maybe this continued existence is some sort of penance for something he did wrong or something someone else did wrong, and he's just the pariah that needs to suffer for it. His demeanor, on the other hand, is survivor. He appears to the outsiders who don't really know him that he's just doing whatever he can to get along, which includes joining and staying with a Sabbat pack.
Now, the nature I really find fascinating. I don't think I've ever had a character play with that nature. Is it that you actively seek to find what injustice or what wrong was committed that led you to being a pariah, or is it something that you know that you're constantly trying to make up for, or is it something that you have just accepted that for whatever reason you are cursed and now you are living with it?
I think it's more the second one. He's cursed. He's living with it. At some point, he probably tried like praying some sort of witch doctor stuff he might have read about in a book at some point, just to figure out like what can he do to get out of this condition. And based off like the story premise, like he probably feels that like he'd probably be better off committing basically suicide, but let's just say that there's the blood bonds him to his pack, and like he just can't do it.
So that, you know, that nature and demeanor I find can be, just off the top of my head right now, it seemed to be like something that can be very easily intertwined. You know, the fact that someone feels like they're cursed and they're living this existence, but depending on the perspective and the angle that you look at them, they could be seen as someone who's surviving, you know, and who's like pushing through and trying to survive this bleak thing. And I think that's really interesting that the Valkyrie is the only thing that really is keeping your character going right now and keeping that weird sense of purpose during this. So that's awesome.
Yes, I'm very interested to see how high and for whom it is.
Yeah, for sure. Or the reverse, who may have high Valkyrie roles for you and may
Right.
see the true pain that you're in and may have to interact with that. And that's the awesome magical thing I think about Sabbat games that a lot of people don't realize, is that these forced intertwined relationships that you normally wouldn't have in a Camarilla game. All right, so let's go ahead. Slavic, tell us about Charlie's nature and demeanor, please.
I'll start with his demeanor, and his demeanor is monster. People see him reveling in his power or in himself, and the way he behaves to others can often lead them to think like he enjoys hurting them, but his nature is actually masochist. He likes to push himself. He likes to push his boundaries. So like even when he did drugs as a mortal, it was all about how much he could do, how much he could push himself.
Is that drug?
It's like everything in his life revolves around this.
Okay, so has he replaced that drug addiction now with the masochism that you have that your condition
Yeah, it's
brings to
basically
you?
like it's seeing how far he can go, like, and the consequences of his actions. Like, if those consequences catch up to them, it's almost like seeing what happens if, let's say, I kill this cop's kid in front of him and he comes after me. Maybe he shoots me, blah, blah, blah. Maybe I'll suffer for it, but it's interesting to see what actually happens.
Was he like this as a growing up? Was that part of his reason when he was growing up? Like
I think it was like just through his fucked up life, it's how he sort of turned out. And then like with the beast and everything, it just became worse.
Yeah, it's almost like an analytical approach that he seems to have too.
Yeah.
You know, like what does A lead to B lead to C kind of thing. And I mean, that very well could be portrayed as a monster, as someone seeing someone doing stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's very close.
Yeah, it is very close. These it's funny because you two have chosen already like two things that are like very easily could be mixed up, and I've never really, you know, put much thought. And to be honest with you, I think that nature and demeanor is often two traits that people really don't put much thought into in the game sometimes. But if you really sit there and look at it, it has a huge impact on how your character is. I'd say more so than most other traits. So, Jorian, let's talk about Abigail's nature and demeanor.
So her demeanor will be the child, because she comes across as very ignorant and not knowing what she's actually doing and just a little bit too happy sometimes. While actually she's more of a chameleon. So her nature will be chameleon, and she's just trying to adapt more.
Oh, nice. So the chameleon aspect of it is the fact that you're saying she acts somewhat childish because it's her way of dealing with her condition. And we're going to talk about your clan weakness here in a little bit. Exactly. I don't want to quite give it away now. I want to explain it when we get to the narrative part, but it's your way of dealing with the condition. So people may see you and may think you're immature at how you're acting, which is kind of funny too, with the twist of this is a professional. I mean, even though you're 21, you have this very complicated degree, that is not one that hair twisting airhead would be able to go through college and get. And so I think it's an awesome trope that you see sometimes in a horror movie. You know what I mean? The one who doesn't want to accept that quite what they are and who tries to fight against it. So that's really awesome. I like hearing that. So Becca, let's talk about Linda's nature and demeanor here, if you could, please.
I'm going to describe what I'm trying to go for. I tend to have issues with the nature and demeanor and finding the right words to fit what I'm thinking. She still carries much that taking care of people. She cares a lot about people with her, but with the change specifically, her demeanor changes, and it's one that's more like she's capped by her curse. So she really cares about a lot of people, or cares about people a lot, but she has a hard time being able to communicate that. So I think her nature would be the caregiver. Yeah. But I'm having a hard time picking an appropriate demeanor to go with it. Go ahead. Craig actually brought up a good one as well. Visionary, seeing beyond the mundane focus.
Ooh, dude, I didn't even see that on the list. I like that one. See that? I think that's a good fit. I like that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I definitely see that working. To clarify, so her nature is going to be caregiver. Mm-hmm. The part that she has a hard time showing other people, and then her demeanor is going to be more that visionary. Awesome. People see the weirdness that goes on with her, but and that's what she's better able to communicate.
I like that. That's awesome. And I think that's going to be so tortured. That has to be you go from being this person whose sole purpose was to heal people to now you can't even really double entendre of a curse right there. It's just, man, it's horrible. Vampire's a mean game. All right, Monica, let's tell us about Jenny's nature and demeanor.
All right, for nature, I have chosen martyr. I was kind of conflicted between that one and caregiver due to her having kids and her whole stay-at-home mom occupation, but I've decided on martyr because I figured she's the type of person that just gives and gives and gives and will just give you everything until nothing is left. Demeanor, this one is going to be something that I want you to give me input on, Chris. I was tied up between curmudgeon and creepshow. Curmudgeon just, being the negative Nancy type, but creepshow due to her appearance, liking the shock of people seeing how she can change her body towards the more grotesquely thin. So I don't know if that's something that we could consider.
Yes, I mean, it's your character, and for sure, I think to me, the Creepshow one, I think, sounds very powerful. Not so much for the shock value, but for the way that it's her way of showing that she has control of her life now. I mean, unfortunately, she was bulimic in her real life because there's a way that she felt she had control of everything, with the kind of feeling pressured to have her kids, especially the second one, and having to give away her career and her education. And I could see that Creepshow almost being I control who I am now. I control how I look now. No one else controls that. And it's just, rather than being a negative Nancy.
Yeah, that's what I was going for. I just didn't know if that would work with what you had going. But Creepshow is definitely what I feel for her, since, her life is out of control. The one thing she's always felt she's had control of is her appearance, the Creepshow. And now that, what she's been told all her adult years is unhealthy and not a good look, she's embracing it now with that.
Yeah. And it's this, I mean, I'm sure, I don't know every single shimize concept that's been out there, but I mean, I do personally think that the shimize of look at me, I got horns on my forehead and I got, has been played to death. And I love seeing fresh takes on, if it's not you with the bulimic, it's the Korra from War is on Fire. You know what I mean? Where you don't see this huge monstrosity walking around with a pet Vivagog or whatever they call those things on a leash behind them. I think it's awesome to see these really powerful displays. So yeah. That's awesome. That works. So again, everyone, make sure to please write those down on your character sheets and annotate them on whatever way that you are annotating them. We're not going to do Path of Enlightenments. All right. So everyone's starting off on humanity. Sorry, but you guys are still new to this whole gig. You don't get Path of Enlightenments yet. Who knows what the future may hold if these characters are ever used again, if I don't kill you off. So next we are going to talk about attributes. it says here, a player receives 7 points to distribute among his character's primary attributes, 5 points for his secondary attributes, and 3 points for his third set of attributes. Basically, I'm going to have you guys do that when you are all done, and you can let me know in the chat box, and then I'll go ahead and we'll go and talk about what you did. Don't feel rushed. Do what you got to do. Remember, if you have one that is 4 or more, you have to put it in a specialty. So make sure that you do that. All right, Jake. So what did you choose, Jake, as your primary group of attributes?
So I'm willingly making a non-optimal character, but I went with social as my primary attribute category, and mental being secondary, and physical as tertiary.
All right, so go ahead and read off what your ratings are after you add to the initial 1 dot that you have in all of them.
Okay, so for physical, I just did 2s across the board: strength, dex, stamina. He's not really like a physical guy. Like his working out consists of walking to the bar and back, because like it's New York, why bother to have a car? So, but he's a youngish guy, like 24-ish appearance. So he got a late start in college, but he's young enough that his genes are able to keep up with them and keep him looking at least an average state of physical being. As far as his social attributes go, I put 4 into charisma, or 3 into charisma for a total of 4. 2 into manipulation. He's not that manipulative. Like his manipulation goes as far as kind of tell people what they want to hear in order to get a bigger tip. And 4 into appearance. For his specialties, charisma, he's a smooth talker. He can basically talk people and do things that they normally wouldn't want to do, or encourage them to give him a tip. Basically, that's like, and his wife is very well aware that there's some amount of professional flirting that he needs to do in order to pay the bills. Appearance specialty, I went for what I call Midwest hot, because it fit inside the blank.
I like that. No, it's cool. That's an awesome one, Midwest hot. So that's cool. Very good. And what about your mental group then?
Perception, I went with a total of 3, same for intelligence, and a 2 in wits. He's a rather perceptive person, and he was smart enough to get into college. He has a keen eye for details, and he's smarter than the average bear, but he's like not too bright when it comes to like streetwise and stuff like that, or thinking things, making quick decisions.
And I would even counter your statement about not making, I forgot the term you exact about your character, where I think social traits can be very helpful in a vampire game, especially, where you have to communicate and learn how to manipulate people. And I think it's often forgotten about, even on my end sometimes, probably, so maybe that's one thing that we can work on in this game here, is explore some of that.
Right. I'm just saying, because we're playing a Sabbat game, and a lot of those like tend to get messier quicker.
We're playing Sad Boy Sabbat here. We're starting a new trend of Sabbat here, Sad Boy Sabbat. So it's all good, man. All right. So Charlie, tell us about where you put your points and how they all laid out.
Well, Charlie, being the guy that probably spent his entire life working with his hands, put his primary in physical. His secondary went to mental, purely because I don't feel like he's that much of a social person, which is why social is a tertiary for him. And mental also governs like his very introspective types of things he does. So for physical, I went 4 points in strength, with property destruction as my specialty.
Love it.
Just because it's still a Sabbat game, still going to be property destroyed, and someone's got to do it.
Like, I'm going to fucking do it. Goddamn, come hell or high water, I'll tell you what.
3 points in dexterity, 3 points in stamina. Now, the secondary is mental. 3 points in perception, 2 points in intelligence. He didn't really have that much education. I assume he likes to read, but he never really had the money for college or anything like that. And 3 points in wits. Then we go to social, 2 points in charisma, 3 points in manipulation, and 1 point in appearance, because, well, dude just doesn't look good.
He's 30 and looks 40. Just doesn't look good. I got it. Life's been hard on him though, man. For real,
Yeah.
like what you described will fuck up how you look. Like the pre-meth, post-meth pictures that you always see online, like it's a truth. All right, let's talk about Abigail. How did you lay out your points and how did they fall down?
I see Abigail as a quite social bird, so I put her primary as social. And of course, she went to college, she went through university, so mental is her second and physical is her tertiary. So let's start there. I put 1 in strength, 3 in dexterity, and I put 2 extra dots in dexterity and 1 extra dot in stamina, so that's now 1, 3, 2. For mental, I have 2 in perception, 3 in intelligence, 2 in wits. And then I ended up for social with 4 in charisma, 2 in manipulation. I don't see her as really manipulative. And 4 in appearance. For charisma, she has a certain charm about her. So she's charming in her own way. And she's generally beautiful. So her appearance is beautiful.
Awesome. Sounds good. All right. So then what about Linda? How did her stats all lay out?
So Linda went mental primary, followed by social as a secondary and physical as tertiary. I felt like that was really appropriate because being a counselor, she is learned. Maybe she was even going back to school some more to get a further degree and get better at what she does. And then with social, it just made sense. Like she needs to be a kind of a people person. So with mental, I went perception. I put 3 dots for a total of 4. With the specialty being insightful.
Oh, I like that, especially with the demeanor.
Exactly. I just felt like that really pairs well with her. Intelligence, I put 2 dots for a total of 3, and wit is also 2 dots for a total of 3. With social, I went charisma, 2 dots, so for a total of 3. Manipulation, I put 1 extra dot in it, but I might switch my appearance and my manipulation because I feel with a counselor, you kind of have to lead people to a certain conclusion, have them come up with themselves. So it makes sense that you would have that skill.
Yeah, that's an interesting take on it too, because it's not like a deceptive form of manipulation, but you are guiding people against their will, manipulating them into seeing the right path for themselves or angles they need to take. Yeah.
And with you saying more, I'm like, yeah. So that manipulation will have 2 dots in it for a total of 3, and appearance is a total of 2 dots. And then physical is just 2, 2, 2, keeping it very balanced.
All right. So Monica, tell us about how your stats all ended up laying out there.
Okay, you'll have to tell me if I'm doing this right. I went for my primary of being physical. I put 1 in strength, 4 in dex, and 2 in stamina.
Nice. So you got a 5 in dex and 2 in strength.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Nice.
And I'm thinking she's going to be athletic.
Okay. Yeah. I like that.
As far as social, I didn't add anything into charisma, so it's just the 1. I figure she's not much. She's used to being at home. She's not very charismatic. Manipulation, I put 3 dots in there for a total of 4. And appearance, just kept it at the 1. The way she's looking is not really her forte. And that's her tertiary. Her secondary would be mental. I put 2 in perception and 3 in wits.
So do you need a specialty for wits? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah. So you'll have a specialty. And how specialties work, for those of you who may not be familiar with the revised system, is basically if you roll a 10, let's say if I have you do a wits and alertness, and your wit specialty is I can't think of anything. They have some examples in the book, but let's say notice the unknown or hearing intently or something to that extent, right? And I'm having you roll and you're like, hey, is this something that's involved me noticing something with my hearing? I'd be like, yeah. And so that means if you rolled a 10, you could re-roll that 10 again to see if you got another success. So that's what specialties are for. It's like a little perk for showing that you on a scale of 1 to 5, that's how attributes and skills are rated, right? 1 being 1 and 2 being average, 3 being pretty good, and 4 and 5 are friggin' excellent. So that's a little perk of having 4 dots in something, is you get a specialty that allows you to re-roll 10s.
Awesome. I'm going to make her
quick-witted. Oh, I like that. Okay, gotcha. All right, awesome. That's good. That's a perfect one right there. So I know you guys have all written those down. So go move on to the next step here real quick. So the next part is selecting abilities. You have 3 categories: talent, skills, and knowledges. They are 13, 9, and 5, but you cannot put more than 3 dots in any of them. So unlike your abilities where you could, unlike your attributes where you could have 4 or more, you can only have up to 3 dots in something for your abilities. Again, your one is going to have 13, the other is going to have 9, the other is going to have 5. When you're done, please let me know in the chat box and we will discuss those. All right, so let's go ahead and Jake, tell us what you chose as your primary, secondary, and your third one, and then how you distributed your points into that.
All right, I basically went down the line, talents as primary, skills secondary, and tertiary knowledges. I did 2 apiece in alertness and athletics. He gets most of his exercises in by going for walks to and from his shitty apartment to school and work, and he probably does this a lot of nights, so he needs to be able to notice things so he doesn't get jumped or something. So that they're decent. I also kind of see him using these walks as away from his wife and the baby, because he could always just claim he's been working harder at the bar or had to stay at school and study or something, but he likes any personal time to himself, because that's something he just doesn't really get. I put 1 apiece in brawl and dodge. Bartender probably broke up a bar fight once or twice before the bouncers could get in. I put 3 in empathy, which is, I think, his highest talent. He listens to people. They tend to spill his guts to him, and he empathizes with them, because that's how you get a good tip. 2 in expression. He's able to talk about his feelings, get his point across fairly well. And I put 2 down in subterfuge, which is my take on it is after he has embraced him basically able to not lie that he's doing it, but able to that with his abysmal manipulation, able to show that he's towing the party line of the Sabbat and still able to, make it, because he doesn't really understand any of the politics that's going behind it, but he's a survivor, so he says and does what needs to be done. I'm kind of thinking that he's sometimes used as an example is made of him quite often to keep other people in line. Skills, I put 1 in etiquette, 1 in melee. He's polite, but no formal training melee. Every once in a while you just need to hit some guy with a crowbar to get him off you. Performance, I put 3 in. He plays guitar, he sings. He's doing architecture because he feels that he can't really make a living as one of those guys who's just it's his job to be in a band or something. But every once in a while, he'll do one of those open mic nights at the bar. I mean, he probably has to go to a different bar for it, because from what I understand, it's more of a goth house bar that he works at.
Yeah, it's a goth club.
Yeah, he'll go to other places and do it, and he'll get oh, you should do something, you're actually pretty good, but he's pretty humble, and he knows he doesn't have the time to devote to this, because this is pretty much gave up his dream, basically do something that he's kind of good at because it pays more. I put 2 in security, knowing the layout of bars and places where he can make a quick exit. 1 in stealth and 1 in survival. He keeps surviving despite all the crap that he gets put into. As far as knowledges, I put 1 into academics. He is a college student focusing in architecture, so he's learned a decent bit in that. I put 1 into finances. He somehow made it to the point where he can afford a shitty apartment in New York, because that's no easy feat. Put 2 into investigations, because I think it's a very useful skill to have, it's a good catch-all skill. And 1 into occult, because I mentioned earlier that he believes that he's cursed, and he probably looked into old books whenever they would come across them. And I personally think that a 1 in occult is one of the most dangerous things you can do to a World of Darkness character.
Yeah, exactly. Don't botch that roll. Right. All right. So let's go ahead and jump to Abigail. So Abigail, what was your primary, secondary, and third one, and how did you spend your points?
So my primary was talents, secondary skills, and tertiary knowledge, because she's a social bird. So she sometimes likes to hang out with her friends a little more than studying. So for her talents, I put 3 dots in alertness, 2 dots in athletics. She works out with a friend in the gym every once in a while. 2 dots in empathy, 3 dots in expression, once again, a people person. 1 in intimidation, because she does have that switch sometimes where she just snaps if somebody comes close in a threatening manner, she will put up that face like, don't mess with me. And 2 in subterfuge, because sometimes being able to lie is kind of helpful. For her skills, I put 2 in drive. I can see her actually driving a motorbike or something like that. 2 in etiquette, 3 in performance. She has a certain air about her that she has to keep up in crowds. So that takes some performance skill. And 2 in stealth, I can see her being quite easily lost in a crowd as well. And for her knowledges, because she is a student, she has 2 in academics, 1 in investigation. You have to crunch those books every once in a while. You have to quickly find the information you're looking for. And 2 in linguistics, because she is a linguistics major.
Now, with linguistics, I believe there's a certain amount of languages you learn depending on the dots that you have. Have you chose those languages yet, or would that be something that you would like to think on?
I haven't chosen them, but I think it would definitely, well, of course it will be English, but I think it's one language per dot.
Yeah, I would give you 2 extra on top of English. I'm not going to.
Yeah, so then it would be German and Spanish, because Spanish is quite useful in the US, and then German from maybe her background a little bit more.
Okay, that's awesome. I like that. Thank you. All right, Charlie, how did you break down as your primary, secondary, and I never can pronounce tertiary or third, as I like to say?
Well, it fell pretty easily. I went basically how the columns are there. So primary talents, secondary skills, tertiary knowledges. And I went with 2 dots in alertness, just because you always have to be on the lookout for cops. Then, as I like to call it, the physical package, which is 2 dots in athletics, 3 dots in brawl, 2 dots in dodge. Pretty self-explanatory. Then we have 2 dots in intimidation. I mean, that dude looks intimidating, so I feel like it makes sense. 2 dots in streetwise, getting drugs and all that stuff. And then skills. 1 point in drive, driving around. 2 dots in firearms for maybe some robberies and who knows. 3 dots in melee, bar fights and such. 1 dot in security, stealing and such, and 2 dots in stealth. For knowledges, I took 2 dots in investigation, 1 dot in occult for I feel like he's been on the streets of the world of darkness so much that he might have noticed some things, out of the corner of his eye. Some things didn't really add up.
I love that, the Cthulhu kind of the architecture, the angles are wrong, kind of shit. Yeah, I like that.
But in his case, it was better not question it, And then I took 2 in underworld lore, which is a Sabbat knowledge, which basically gives you knowledge about criminal gangs and such, which are operating in the area.
All right. So, Linda, how did you lay out your primary, secondary, and third? And then how did they all fall down?
So I went with talents being the primary, knowledges being secondary, and skills being tertiary. So left to right, talents. She also has alertness and athletics at 2. I'm seeing a theme. She has 1 dot in dodge, 3 dots in empathy. Based on how I've been describing her, I might need to take the dots in expression away, but I've put 2 dots there, 1 in intimidation, 1 in leadership, and then 1 in subterfuge. So, I don't know, kind of based off of everything that I've described her so far, does that sound fairly reasonable?
Yeah. I can even counter your doubt about expression and the fact that communication is not the only form of expression. Maybe you can express with your emotions, or you can, express with your actions, or I mean, but if you want to take those out of there, I totally understand that too. It makes sense. But I look at it as expression more sometimes people can convey by their actions or the way they look, or their body language can express something too, especially I think we've all, Silent Bob style, just said in the chat there, but if you choose not to, I totally get that too. I don't expect your character to be Silent Bob. I know she's going to communicate and talk and everything. I just know that she has a hard time articulating like she used to.
Yeah. No, and when you said nonverbal cues, that totally makes sense. So yep, I'll leave that as is. And then skills, I put 1 dot in drive. She probably didn't grow up in New York to justify that, as she probably doesn't drive around New York. 2 dots in etiquette and 2 dots in performance, with the performance being more public speaking. Maybe she's gone to conventions, but that's not the right word for...
Yeah.
I don't think it is, but I think you guys understand what I'm trying to
Yeah,
say.
yeah, like gatherings of
Conference.
Conference. There you go. Yes.
Thank you.
You successfully rolled your expression right there and got it across.
See,
Yes.
I'm already fitting in the character a little bit.
There you go. Awesome.
And then knowledges, she has 3 in academics, makes, again, high degree, probably has a master's at this point. 1 in law, because with that sort of thing, like she needs to at least know the rights of her clients and that sort of stuff. 3 dots in medicine, but not the, like, I can, like, reading in the book, that would be a general practitioner. So it's, whatever the equivalent for the counselor route for that.
Okay.
Politics 1 and then science 1.
Awesome. I love this. That's great. All right. So Jenny, tell us about what you chose as your primary, secondary, and third, and how they cascaded down for you.
All right, I went down the line. Primary would be talents, secondary skills, tertiary knowledges. For talents, I put 3 in alertness and 3 in athletics. I figure that given what she was initially majoring in, sports medicine, and particularly being a softball player, that's more of the skill set that I feel she'd have. I put 2 in dodge for the same reason. 1 in empathy, 2 in intimidation, and I put 1 point each in leadership and subterfuge. Leadership, I figure when you have 2 kids, you kind of have to know where to point people, how to get things together. And subterfuge, you have to hide the chocolate in the broccoli bag in the freezer. So she's got that going. As far as skills, I put 3 in crafts, 1 in drive because we got to get the minivan around, 1 in etiquette, 1 in melee because you got to throw a flip-flop once in a while, 2 in stealth, and 1 in survival. As far as knowledges, I put 2 in investigation, 1 in linguistics because she's a Chinese American, so I figure her secondary language is Mandarin, and 2 in occult.
Awesome. I like that. That's great stuff. So next, you don't get backgrounds in Sabbat games unless you spend freebie points. So I would remind you all when we get to the freebie points section, if you want to think of generation, that's a critical background there if you want to raise your generation up. But as of now, you don't get backgrounds in the Sabbat character unless you spend freebie points. Virtue. So I, for the longest time, thought we did virtues wrong in wars. I thought you weren't supposed to get automatic 1 dots in virtues if you played a Sabbat member, but you do. So it's the same as a normal character. So what we're going to do for virtues is next you're going to spend virtues. You have 1 dot automatically in all 3 of them, but you're going to spend 5. So go ahead and do that and let me know when you're done. So we're just going to go through it again. All right. So Jake, how did you lay down your virtues?
Well, I kind of feel that Jake is still kind of soft-hearted and very much in touch with his humanity. So I spent 3 of my 5 dots into conscience to give him a total of 4. I also don't see him as being particularly courageous or having self-control, so I only put 1 apiece in those. And I want to explain this. He doesn't really want to be a fighter for the cause. However, he has a very low self-control, and I plan to give him guilt-wrecked. So the idea of him frenzying quite often and just going like apeshit on whatever his pack points him at is something that I can see him actually excelling at, especially once we get around to explaining which disciplines we chose. I see that, like the fact that he's able to be just pointed at something and, rip the cord and let the top spin and watch it crash into everything else. I see that as a big way to like justify him just staying around with the pack, why they keep him around.
Awesome. I like that. Good stuff. So Abigail, how did you lay down your virtues?
I see Abigail as a bit more middle ground, so I put I put 3 dots in conviction, 3 dots in self-control, and 2 dots in courage. She's not super courageous, but she has embraced her new life within these years.
And an interesting new life it's going to be because like when your clan flaw is brought up, it's going to like lay this all like down like, and like you scare me, Abigail. That's all I got to say. It's like, sometimes you just need a lie. Like, all right. So Charlie, how did your virtues work out?
Interestingly, I have 1 dot in conscience, 2 dots in self-control, and 5 dots in courage.
Oh, you're a courageous little guy. I mean, big guy or whatever. You're a courageous
For
guy.
you.
Yeah. Awesome. So, Linda, how did your virtues come about?
Linda has 4 dots in conscience, 2 dots in self-control, and 2 dots in courage.
Yeah, that's how I figured would lay out. Yeah, especially the conscious part. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. You can already see these like lines being drawn in the pack, these weird like connections before the Valdir even happens. You know, it's really, that's the kind of awesomeness of group sessions like this in Sabbat games. All right. So, Jenny, how did your virtues play out?
I have her set on 3 dots for conscience and conviction, 2 for self-control and instinct, since I figure due to her addictive personality, control's not her best attribute, and I have her for 3 in courage.
Awesome. I like that. Okay, good stuff. So you guys have that annotated. Now here's the part where everyone in Vampire likes. Is disciplines. So you all, since you're not pesky little humanity-ridden, well, you're still humanity-ridden, but you're not Camarilla vampires, you get to use 4 dots and disciplines instead of 3. Now, of course, the 4 dots are limited to your clan disciplines, unless you are Mr. Jake, who gets to learn any 3 clans that he wishes. Now, I trust your judgment, and we'll talk when you tell me what your 3 disciplines are. But from there, we'll take it. So go ahead, think on your 4 disciplines dots you would like to spend. Let's go first, Jake. So Jake, tell us what, because for everyone listening, Jake is a pander, so he gets to choose any of the disciplines and put 4 dots into them. So what did Jake choose?
So I went for I'm totally a mudblood here. My thoughts were that he probably will get kicked around quite a bit. So a lot of his are learned from a survival instinct, being 1 in fortitude, 1 obfuscate, because sometimes you just need to either hide or take a beating, especially as like a pack whipping boy. Presence, because I got a giant performance and it'd be a shame to actually have that go to waste. I'm a big fan of awe, especially in Sabbat games. Love you, Jasper.
I was about to say, Pete, Jasper riots, go.
Yeah, and I put 1 into protein as well, because I just think it'd be crazy to see this guy who's finally lost it frenzied, and now he's running at you with red eyes, trying to just see you better. And who knows, it might be claws, depending on how much points I have left.
Yeah, nice. That's, oh god, that's scary shit. Like a self-conscious guy with claws that can murder you, in like one swipe. Abigail, how did you spend your discipline points?
I spend them by putting 3 in, and I'm not going to be able to pronounce this word, chemistry, and 1 in animalism.
Awesome. And that chemistry, that's how who cares? There's like
That's
different
the
ways.
illusion stuff. So basically, I can make, as long as I suffer through them as well, I can make people see moving illusions that tickle all 5 senses.
That's insane. That's even stronger than Coyote had with his shit, man. That's insane. So next, Charlie, how did you spend your discipline points?
Charlie spread his discipline points between 2 disciplines, potence and celerity. 3 dots in potence and 1 point in celerity.
Polarity. That's it. Just call for what it is. Linda, how did you spend your discipline points?
I split mine between 2, Auspex and Dementation. 2 and 2. I on one hand, I kind of wanted Obfuscate, but I'm like, there's nothing sneaky about my character, and Auspex and Dementation, they just fit her so well. Oh. I want them to be higher.
Favorite discipline in Vampire the Masquerade is Auspex level 2 for me. I love aura perception. Aura perception, I think, is such a if you get good enough successes, it's such an awesome thing to do. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about Monica. What are your disciplines? How did you spend your points?
Well, I went for the obvious 2 in vicissitude, because we need to be able to alter that muscle and fat. 1 point in animalism for the feral whispers, and 1 in auspex. I figured, as a mom, you already have heightened hearing. Why not make it a thing? So those are my 4 points.
All right. So then next, we are going to do willpower. Your character's willpower is equal to his courage rating. So make sure you put your willpower in. Then you have your humanity. And you add your 2, which is going to be conscience and self-control, and that is your humanity. So make sure to fill that in. Next is freebies. So how freebies work is you have 15 points that you can spend on freebies. You can find the freebie chart in the revised book on page 104. Now, here's the thing. A couple things I want to point out. One is you're going to also do merits and flaws. You can do 7 points in merits, and you can do a max of 7 points in flaws. So you can't take like 30 points in flaws and just like max your character out. Also, when you are spending your freebies, some things I would consider, because people tend to forget them. Generation, that's something that you might want to consider. Willpower, that's something that you also might want to consider. Now, I'm not saying throw all your points into that shit. I'm just saying just keep those in mind, because sometimes, and again, you don't have to, but skills that may coincide with your disciplines that you may need to raise or lower, depending on that, if you want to, or just things you want to do. So you do you. If you have a background other than generation that you want to spend it on, please ask me and I'll give you the thumbs up, yay or nay on that. So until then, you guys go ahead and spend your freebies, get your merits and flaws. If you got questions on anything about that, just let me know. Once you are completely done, let me know in the chat box and we'll take it from there.
I do have a question.
Oh, yes.
Now,
ask away.
One part of it was that there's going to be 2 important NPCs that sort of are tied to the story, right? The Ejectus and the Pack Priest.
Yes.
What were their clans?
Very good question. Their clans were La Sombra.
Okay, so would you be all right if I took, with my freebies, Obtembration?
Yeah. I wouldn't mind. That would make sense to me that they taught it to you, because we'll get into the story, but you guys were definitely...
You also get the blood through the Valdery, so...
Yeah, you guys were a close pack, so I wouldn't mind if you did that either. So, all right. So, Jake, what did you spend your specialty points or your freebie points on?
Well, off the bat, I went and grabbed that second dot of Protean, so now there's a screaming red-eyed guy with giant claws who doesn't know how to use them running at you when he actually freaks out. I also spent a little bit on my virtues, since as Sabbat we're a bit handicapped on that, and raised my self-control up to 3 now. I'm going to just jump down to my merits and flaws real quick. I thought as a bartender, it'd be nice for him to have a friendly face. So it might make interactions with people, at least at first, a little bit easier, because who knows what the rest of these monsters are going to be doing. So if I have to break the ice, that might be useful. I also decided to torture the hell out of this guy. I gave him both guilt-racked and addiction to alcohol. Guilt-racked because he does not... he really wishes that he didn't have to do this eating people thing to survive, and he feels terrible every time he has to do it. And then he just goes and, kind of drinks to forget that he had to do that. And just so he doesn't vomit up that alcohol afterwards, I gave him the eat food merit. I'm going to jump back up and finish the rest of my sheet. I put a few points into willpower. So now he's at willpower 5, which is a lot better. I gave him a extra dot in strength, and now his performance is at 4 with a specialty in singing.
All right, Abigail. So what did you spend your freebie points on?
I spent a couple dots to up my generation to 2, and then I dumped another couple to get my willpower to 3. Because willpower is a nice thing to have. I put 1 point in fortitude, because I didn't have that yet. And I dropped the remaining 2 points that I could spend in Animal Can for 1 point. So
awesome.
Use my animalism.
Awesome. All right. So, Charlie, tell us about how you spent your freebie points.
I did take the Obtembration, and I took 2 flaws. I took 14th generation, and I took Fangless. Charlie doesn't have fangs.
Oh my God.
Which
Jesus.
is a brutal flaw.
Dude, brutal.
Then I spent 3 freebies on willpower, which puts me at a total willpower of 8. 2 freebie points for 1 point of brawl, which puts me at 4 brawl. The specialty I took is frenzy. 5 points for stamina, so I'm at stamina 4, and I forgot to put specialty there, and I'll just put withstanding punishment. And then 2 freebies for 1 point of stealth.
Awesome. All right, Linda. So how did you spend your freebie points?
All right. So I did an extra dot in humanity. So I went from 6 to 7. I upped my willpower to a total of 5, spending 3 on that. I moved my empathy from 3 to 4, and I took deep motivations as a specialty for that. I decided to go with 2 dots in generation, so she's the 11th generation. And for the final thing, I did dementation level 3.
Nice.
This sounds so cool. I'm so excited.
I like it. Yeah, that's awesome. That's good stuff. I don't even know what Dementation 3 does, but I liked hearing that you're taking empathy of 4. That got me super excited. I was like, oh, she's raising her humanity. I'm like, oh hell yeah, dude. That means I can make it fall even more. And I'm joking.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
probably what's going to end up happening.
No, but if it's a character.
I do have a question. Do you want me to do her derangement now or wait for that until later?
Let's talk about now. You can say her derangement
Okay.
now. I'm going to save Abigail's for when we do the narration, but go ahead.
I gotta pronounce it correctly. She has this schizotypal derangement, which I think it's not in one of the main books, but it fit really well, and it's very interesting. There's, to kind of describe it for the rest of the group, there's a list of 9 conditions in which a schizotypal person has to have 5 of those. And the things that you guys will most likely notice with her is things of ideas of reference, like she thinks that the universe is telling her certain stuff. She has, this is going to sound weird given we're playing vampire, but she has strange and magical beliefs because of this. Again, so with that one, kind of think Luna Lovegood from Harry Potter. Like she had, she was obviously part of a magical world, but there was like this extra level of stuff. She's going to have things like depression, paranoia, social anxiety, and abnormal perception experiences. So that just kind of gives you guys a clue on to how interesting she's going to be.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to play out for sure. Like, I know you did a bunch of research on different things because the book is very limited on like believable derangements when it comes to Malkavian. They're kind of cookie cutter, I feel. At least this edition, I don't know. I can't attest to future editions, So I like that a lot. So awesome. All right. So Jenny, tell us about how you spent your freebie points.
I put some points into skills. So I have used 4 points to put additional 2 dots into crafts, bringing it up to 5. Choosing the specialty inventive. I figure, again, as a mom, you gotta take crap and pull a miracle out of it. I did choose take another 4 points to put 2 dots in animal kin. I added 3 willpower, which brings me to a total of 6. I took a point for a merit, which I chose to be cat-like balances for things like walking on ledges or tight fits, things like that. And I used 3 points to bring my generation to 10th generation.
Awesome. So we have that all laid out. Now, one final step is the best part of a Sabbat game, I feel, is the Vinculum, where everyone gets to roll their relationship types. Now, again, it's so funny how I misremember stuff. I thought it was what you rolled +1 is your Vinculum rating, but it's just what you roll is your Vinculum rating. So what I'm going to do, what you'll do is, Jake, we're going to have you go first. You'll roll for Abigail, Charlie, Linda, then Jenny, then we'll have Abigail do it, and I'll tell you who you're rolling for and you'll write that down. That's also a nice thing to think about between, this creation session and our first session is about your relationship with one another. Just because you roll a 1 for someone doesn't mean you dislike them, by the way. It just means you don't have that strong bond. There's actually a really, really good chart that explains the Vinculum. Now, I'm not going to read off exactly what everyone scored for the Valdery. But if you look on page 155, you'll see that kind of give you an idea once you roll it, but obviously the lower is not as good, the higher is the best, and that's how you get it from there. So all right, so let's go ahead, Jake, and have you go first. I'm gonna have you roll for Abigail. What is your relationship like with Abigail? Go ahead and roll it out.
For Abigail, I rolled a 3.
Okay, awesome. Let's go ahead and have you roll for Charlie next.
For Charlie, we have a 6.
Oh God, Jesus Christ. All right, and then for Linda,
we really like Linda at an 8.
I think it's cool because you're that tortured person, you know what I mean? And you're looking for like the person
seeking out the therapist.
Yeah. So then you're going to roll for Jenny next. Go ahead.
Jenny's a 10.
Oh God, because Jenny reminds you of the guilt that you feel about what you put your wife through. And you see now like this reminder, God, fucking I love vampires. Sometimes.
Yeah, we were talking in the chat how basically Jenny's backstory like really mirrored that of Jake's wife. Gave up her career and everything to follow Jake to New York so he can go to school to become an architect because it was his dream, and just stayed home with the kid and just it's perfect.
Awesome. All right, so Abigail, we are going to have you roll first for Jake.
For Jake, I rolled a 5.
Oh, okay, that's good. All right, next is Charlie.
Charlie is an 8.
Ooh, interesting. Maybe your fun-loving personality going out, doing whatever, and especially when we
Yeah.
find out what your flaw is. then,
Maybe.
Yeah, and then next is Linda.
Ooh, a 2.
Ooh, she doesn't like to be told. No, I'm joking. I was about to say she doesn't like to be told she's wrong, but Linda's not like that. You know what I mean? And then next is Jenny.
A 9.
Ooh, is Jenny the new Jasper? That's all I'm asking. Is Jenny the new Jasper? All right. So next, let's have Charlie roll. Charlie, you're going to roll for Jake first.
All right, Jakey boy. Let's see what we have here. Is a 3.
Oh, I thought that was going to be a tight bond. They're not really. Next is Abigail.
It's a 6.
All right. That's pretty good. Next is Linda.
That's a 10.
Oh, dang. All these people are seeking the Linda like she's the healer. Another tortured soul is seeking out the therapist. Next is Jenny.
Jenny is 5.
All right. Interesting. All right, Linda. So many people depending on you. Let's see how you feel about these people. Jake, go ahead and roll Jake first.
Jake is a 10.
Oh my God. That's going to be such an interesting cause. Oh, man. This is kind of what I was hoping for your character when we were talking about it. Like, now it's going to thrust it upon, like this counselor, you know what I mean? Like, weird figure. Okay, go ahead and roll. There's a lot of all 10s. Dude. All right, next is Abigail.
Abigail's a 6.
That's pretty good too, though. All right, next is Charlie.
2.
Oh, Jesus. Returning that.
Why the difference there?
You're beyond help, sir. I can't help you. I'm going to refer you to a different counselor.
As Slavic was describing Charlie, I'm like, that could be really off-putting for Linda because she's so, like, she cares so much about people. So either him just, from her perspective, him hating himself so much that he has those destructive behaviors could make it difficult.
You guys can still have a relationship too. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And then Jenny.
Okay. Feeling pretty cold on Jenny as well.
What did you get for Jenny?
2. I got a 2.
Okay. Well, you got your pet project, you know what I mean? It's like the sad boy pander, All right. So next, let's go ahead, Jenny. Okay, we're gonna have you roll, and you're gonna roll for Jake first.
Got a 9 for my boy Jake.
Oh shit. He got high for you, I believe, too, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Then next is Abigail.
Got a 5 for Abigail.
Okay, awesome. Next is Charlie.
No.
Oh.
I got a 2 for Charlie.
Oh, geez, dang.
Oh, I was hoping we'd be kindred addict souls.
Oh. Then next is Linda.
For Linda, I also got a 2. I guess Linda and I just don't like each other.
So I'm noticing a trend where people like fucking Jake. You know what I mean? They feel bad for Jake, and they like the two guys who lost their path, like, are trying to get Linda to help fix them. You know what I mean? So that's an interesting concept for sure. So really like that. Hello. If you're enjoying Vampire the Masquerade, Twin Cities by Night Sorrow, I would highly recommend our Ghouls Fatal Addiction story Servitude, which takes place 3 months before the events of Sorrow and is part of the Twin Cities by Night continuity.